Mike McConville here once again for String Tech Workstations. We're going to pick up where we left off. We have this Les Paul Custom we're finishing up for Tom. We have this Les Paul Standard for Jonathan. So we've got them both at the point where we've got a nice press fit on the compensated nut blank. So this is the first stage of the nut blank. We get that to fit. Beautiful press fit into the slot. And here's the next stage on the custom. We've canted that crown back to match the headstock. Same deal for the standard. So I've got a few of these original Gibson nuts that I use as a guideline. So we get it started here. I got a 26 thou Hosco file that you get anywhere online. And we've got our centers marked. Now, same deal again for the custom nut. Just mark those centers. 26 thou. And just a little notch in there. Get it started. There we go. So that's our rough cut. The values for the compensated nut blank on this Les Paul Custom are cut. Same deal here with the Les Paul Standard. The values are cut. The string slots are spaced evenly. Same deal with the Les Paul Standard. We're in the same spot. We're doing these things in tandem, so you really get a play-by-play. I've got that protector guard over the face of the headstock. I don't normally use it myself. I've been doing this for half a century, but it's pretty easy to score the face of a nice Les Paul headstock if you don't have it. So for you guys that are just getting your feet wet, making nuts or compensated nuts from a blank, that extra precaution is not going to hurt you. Pretty simple to make up. You can just cut it out of a piece of bristle board or something thin enough to kind of slip under the strings, just to protect that headstock and further reduce the whoops factor. As I've mentioned before, you leave those nut blanks a little too wide, so you always have that extra little bit of forgiveness to shift it to one side or the other. That's what you want, that little bit of forgiveness on both sides. You can shift that one way or the other after you've done all your work. And it's then and only then that you do that final flush cut on both sides and even it up with the outside of the fingerboard. The threads are wrapped in Teflon tape, and that just firms them up. I showed that in the other Les Paul tuning tips video. But I want to show you something on the Les Paul Custom that's kind of just a little bit of a different take on these bridge posts. I've got about a 3-inch length of that Teflon tape on the thread, so we'll turn that on now and see what we got. Lots of resistance there. That's rock solid. That's what we're after. Now this is the last little bit of schlocking that we want to get rid of here. So this is how we're going to deal with this. We've got that heat shrink tubing. We've just slipped that over top of those exposed threaded posts. We're going to heat that up, and then we'll press the bridge on and check the fit again. Now, seeing as we're doing this taste test comparison between the two bridges, we push this one on. Well, no, that's solid. That's a good fit. There's no play in that at all. This is the standard bridge. All that slack in the machining now has been taken up by the Teflon tape and the heat shrink tubing. This Les Paul Custom is done. Before it goes, and while we have the two guitars here, I just want to sort of finish this taste test comparison. A few other things that are quite different from one Les Paul to the other. If you look closely at the bridge here, you'll see that that tailpiece is wound right down tight to the body. And yet there's still clearance. The strings are not deflecting off the back of the casting in the bridge. So that's fine for that tailpiece to be wound right down. Now with the standard, you can see that the tailpiece needed to be raised up for these strings to clear the back of the casting on the bridge. The angle that the neck is set to the body. And that's why we got away on the fret dress with this standard. We just put the mask right over top, no problem. We breezed right over those frets at the neck to body junction, no problem. But as you saw earlier in the video, with the custom, because of this neck set, I gently removed that pickup, wrapped it, and set it aside because it was in the way of the file when I was leveling. But the neck to body angle on this one is much shallower, nowhere near as steep as the neck to body angle on that standard. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, another taste test comparison. If you look at this, has a multiple layer binding around the body on the custom. It also has a bound back. Now on the standard, you can see it's just one single strip of plastic. There is no binding on the back. You've got that multiple layered, mitered binding, as well as the pearl inlay in the face. This headstock, on the other hand, has no binding at all around the edge and has just the block Gibson logo and the script, as I pointed out earlier. And this compensated nut is just roughed in. I still have a ways to go on this to kind of get to the stage where I am with the custom, but I really got to ship that back to Tom in California. So I'm going to end this video here, and then we'll pick up all the final stuff on this Les Paul Standard next video. Stay warm, all you guys and gals that are caught up in the Canadian winter. The Mojave Desert. Oh, sounds good to me. Neck surgery on this Les Paul is now complete, and thanks to Darcy Thompson's masterful shading job, at a glance you'd never know anything ever happened to this neck, and it is definitely stronger than the day it left the factory. Here's the view of the other side. No trace of that break. And it's not just that it was masterfully shaded to conceal any trace of the break, but more importantly, structurally it's stronger than the day it was made. On the custom is a plated aluminum tailpiece, half the weight of the nickel plated tailpiece on the standard. You can see the flame on this custom is over the top. Absolute perfect book match. Beautiful three-tone finish. Beautiful cherry burst on the standard, and a lovely flame maple top as well. Maybe not quite as wild as the custom guitar, but beautiful nonetheless.